What's up, everyone? Thanks for coming to check out this video. This is going to be the first tour of the new Valaverse Headquarters, or Valaverse Headquarters, if you want to call it that. So I'm really excited to finally show this off. It's all set up. It's ready for everyone to get their orders packed up soon. So I've got my good buddy Sal from 2 Cents Toys to help film this awesome tour. So hope you all enjoy it. There's some really cool stuff to show. I'm very excited about this place. It's an awesome place to come and work. So let's get started. So when you come in, front door over here for the Valaverse Headquarters. There's this large garage area, which in a few short weeks will have a giant 40-foot tractor trailer coming up to it and dropping off all of Action Force Series 1. That's going to be very, very exciting. So we'll do a video when that happens as well. But for now, this area is basically the gym. I kind of come in here in the morning, get a quick little workout in. Just it kind of gets me started for the day. So, you know, I also want to see Action Force as soon as I walk in, because that's, you know, a good way to start the day. Of course, you can't have an office without Old Glory. And of course, when you finish working out, you're going to want a snack as well. So now let's check out the rest of the office. So, one of my favorite villains of all time, Lord Voldemort. And this is probably the most boring part of the office, but this is going to be the shipping office. This is going to be where all the orders are processed and then thrown out that little window and stacked up in the gym for when UPS will come and pick up all the orders. So, a little boring, but also a very necessary part of this whole operation. Now, one of my favorite parts of the entire office is the armory. Now, I'm a huge fan of swords. They're one of my favorite just weapons, and I love movies with swords. And if you've seen, Michael from Retro Blasting and I did a stream on his channel where we talked about movie swords. So I'll put a link in the description below, because that's a great video to check out. We had a lot of fun with it. But these are some of my favorite swords. So we have Conan's sword. Destroyer is better than Barbarian. I'm going to say it. We have the Sword of Omens. And then we have my all-time favorite movie sword. And I talked about this on the stream with Michael. This is the Sword of Evelyn from Kingdom of Heaven. And they made these masterclass replicas that are actually really sharp. Michael French told me about this. He has one, then I had to go on a scavenger hunt and find one, and actually found one, so it's great to actually have this sword. And then Sal was gracious enough to gift me this awesome Knights Templar challenge coin, which basically has the oath that Liam Neeson's character says to Orlando Bloom's character, his son. That's their, you know, their Evelyn oath, I guess you would call it. But that's on that challenge coin, which is cool to have right next to this sword. And then coming into my favorite series of movies, we have the Lord of the Rings section. So, Banner of Gondor, we have Aragorn's Ranger Sword, his elven knife that he had. This is Andúril, which was forged from the shards of Narsil, which Aragorn got when he kind of became king, I guess you would say. And then we have Gandalf's sword, Glamdring, and the white, the staff of Gandalf the White. This is a pen and ink drawing that Alex Sanchez, a good friend of mine, you guys know him from the Infinity Equation, we went to school together, and he came to visit me in Rhode Island, geez, years back now, and he did this while he was at my house, and he gifted this to me. And Alex isn't a great big Lord of the Rings fan, but he muscled his way through it, and he did an outstanding piece of artwork, and that was in my house, and now I moved it here because I want to see it every day. Great piece of artwork, drawing I did of Ian McKellen and got him to sign it for me. And then this little postcard up here has been with me for a very long time. One of my good friends, Joe, who I grew up with in high school, he went to New Zealand for a trip, and he visited all Lord of the Rings sites. And from New Zealand, he sent me this postcard, and he just wrote, "The beacons are lit. Hopefully you get it." So that's important to me. I love Lord of the Rings stuff, so this is a great section to kind of see every day. Like I said, I come in here, it helps me start my day. It's very motivating and energizing to see this stuff and get excited to make cool toys. So now we'll go into actually where I work, in my office, which is the coolest part. So let's head on in there. All right, here we are, my office. Coolest part of this whole entire office is my office. So let's get into it. Coming in, of course, we have the Doc, one of my favorite movie characters of all time. And then this is basically my Marvel section. I spent a lot of time working on the Marvel team during my time at Hasbro, and these were things that I worked on that were some of my favorites. So we have both Infinity Gauntlets that I did, the 80th anniversary Thor, the World War II cap on the bike. I did not work on that Deadpool figure, but I did, in a way, work on this. And I've told this story on a bunch of podcasts. There's a really good story behind this this signed $300 million $20 bill. If you don't know it, ask me one day on a stream, and maybe I'll tell it again. And we have, this is the Toy of the Year award that I got for the Guardians of the Galaxy Dancing Groot figure that I worked on. Great item. I did the Cosmic Cube, or the Tesseract, as you would call it, that came with the Red Skull Comic-Con set. This was a replica of Mjolnir that we had gotten when I worked on the Mjolnir Legends roleplay item. So, how iconic is it to kind of have this with you? It's such a great item. But yeah, so that's my Marvel section. And then got this piece of Wonka artwork from a very talented artist that I know on Instagram. And I saw it and I love his work, and I thought it would be cool to have this Wonka piece, because as cheesy as it sounds, there's a part in the movie where he sings and he says, "In a world of pure imagination." So that's kind of how I wanted this all to be. It's like, working on toys and stuff, it all comes from your imagination. So that's why Wonka is important. So big inspiration to have in the office. This is my Led Zeppelin LP collection. They are my all-time favorite band, so that is every original record, and I have all, 6 covers for In Through the Outdoor. They took this scene in the bar and they shot it 6 different, from the point of view of 6 different people, and that was cool that they offered that record. So it was almost like, back then, I think that record came out 79 or 80, that was the tail end of Zeppelin's run, but it was like, they did variants, and that was like one of the first kind of variants out there, which is really cool, because us as collectors, we love variants. Up here is some of my favorite statues, and this one is very important to me. I was a huge Michael Turner fan growing up with comics, and this one he signed, but he also drew that he called it Ernie. It's a little seahorse, and he hid that in most of the pages of the Fathom comic. And I brought that base when I met him at one of the conventions, and got him to do that, and he loved it, because no one ever asked him to do an Ernie before. Everyone wants him to draw beautiful women, and unfortunately Michael Turner is not alive anymore, so that having that drawing means a lot to me. Now coming to a very cool part of this office, these are my skulls, and I've talked about these several times on different podcasts. There is an artist. His company is called Jack of the Dust. He's in Australia. I found him on Instagram a few years back, and he's basically a movie prop guy, and he creates these skulls and he makes artwork out of them. So he does, as you can see, skulls in different, sort of genres and themes. And when I first saw his work, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And the Darth Maul skull was the first one I ever got from him. And he was kind of, I don't know how long he'd been around, but he was kind of starting out. He wasn't as huge as he is now, that's for sure. So I got one of those, and then it kind of like they say with tattoos, once you get one, you get a bunch. I got one, and I couldn't stop getting any more. And there were things like I always wanted the honeycomb skull, all these. These were some of my favorite skulls that he ever did. And I think I kind of got all the ones that I wanted, but you can see that the pineapple one's great. This one's cool because you can kind of see, the brain inside. Super heavy. This one I like because it looks like Killer Croc. The hermit crab one is very cool. The snail one was amazing when it first came out. Obviously the venom one. But, I had these when I was working at, from my house before I had this office. They were kind of just in boxes, and I didn't have room to display them. And when I got this office, I knew that I wanted a focal point for these skulls because I love the art of it so much. So go check him out. Go follow him on Instagram. Great artist. So we got Connor, always hanging out with me. This was one I designed when I was at Jazzwares. I'm a huge UFC fan. I love Conor McGregor.
Thank you. I do look good. I know that.
So, fun item. I let him always sit here in the office with me. Alright, so this is where I work. This is my Cintiq, which I can't live without. My computer and my desk. And I like to have, a lot of inspirational stuff there. So a lot of toys that I find really cool, modern stuff at the time. Some things I worked on are over there. That's my Stone Cold section, my favorite Stone Cold figures. And you can see that is a drawing that I did of Stone Cold, and then that was when I met him at Wizard World Philly and got him to sign that drawing for me, and I gave him a copy too. And there you can see young Bobby with no facial hair and actually hair on his head, so long time ago. This is my Death of Superman poster. I had this exact poster when I was a kid growing up. My dad, who's in those pictures with me, got me into comics, and at the time it was, Death of Superman was a big event. And I remember he would take me to comic book stores, he'd get me comics every Wednesday, and he got me this poster, and I had that hanging on my wall. That's not my original one, but I did track down that original poster, so it's cool to have that and see that every day. My, Batman's, big favorite hero of mine. I love the Dark Knight, so I got Heath up there, and, Doomsday here, and then down here is my Turtle stuff. I love this NECA Turtles line. I think it's so well done, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. And, it still holds up to this day. I think it was great them doing this line because they're going deep with it. They're doing all the characters, so I can't get enough of this Turtles line. This is a cool aspect of the office. This is kind of one of the selling points. It has this old-ass radio, and it kind of reminded me of the Milano Star-Lord ship, how it had, that old tape deck in it. So that's, this is kind of like my Milano in a way. Down here, this little weird guy is a plush red panda. I made this when I was at FIT. We had to do a soft plush toy, but we had to create our own character and then do a children's storybook. So this is Paimba's Discovery. This was the book that I wrote and drew. So basically I decided, instead of doing like a traditional children's book, one giant image, I, coming from comics, did a comic, which was a lot more work. But that was the cool book, and then this is, him, and he's cool because, he's got his little knife and stuff. But, fun times at FIT, lots of work. Gave me my education on toy design, and that's why that guy, has an important place here. Alright, so here we are on the other side of the office. Now these sections I'm just going to touch on because Sal and I are actually going to do more in-depth videos on these two sections, because I think you need to devote a lot of time to what these sections encompass. So this is my entire Steel Brigade collection. This is mine from home, and it's just evolved over time, and it's every one of my Steel Brigade figures. But I will go in more in depth and do an entire video on the whole collection and cool points about it, variants, that sort of thing, and that's going to be really exciting. And then over here, I always wanted this office to have basically a time capsule. I wanted to come in here and see toys and get really excited for designing toys. I've worked at a lot of toy companies in the past, and I've always noticed that the offices there never felt fun. Like, working at a toy company, and I wanted this place to feel different. I wanted it to have that fun aspect and be surrounded by toys and have all this inspiration. So these are a big part of that. All these cases are of toys that aren't my original ones from childhood, but ones that I had growing up. So it's basically a huge time capsule of toys from the 80s and 90s that I had as a kid that were very important to me. These experiences, because we've played with so many of these toys growing up. So before we move on, the last part of my office is kind of the artwork section of it. Comics were big for me growing up and still are today, so a lot of this is artwork from comic book guys. So up here we have one of my all-time favorite comic book artists, Dan Jurgens. He was responsible for creating Doomsday and The Whole Death of Superman. I got to meet him in Chicago in '01, and he did that awesome Doomsday piece for me. This is one of my prized possessions. This is my Tim Sale Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is my all-time favorite Batman villain, and I met Tim Sale at San Diego Comic-Con, and he was, taking, appointments for, sketches, and, I said, hey, I want to do Ra's al Ghul. He had never done Ra's al Ghul before, which is crazy because he's drawn every single Batman villain. And he said, I haven't done Ra's al Ghul before. I'd rather do a big piece instead of just a little head sketch, so would you mind buying a big piece? And I'm like, sure. So, that was on like Thursday when the con started. Sunday, I met up with him. And he said, I really didn't want to give this back to you because he loved it so much, and he did. And I was blown away by it. It's an amazing piece, and I still keep in touch with him today. And to this day, it is the only time he has ever done Ra's al Ghul. He's never drawn him since. And this, I believe he said, was one of his last full-size commission pieces. So that's that's an important one to have. So I got the Batman black and white Tim Sale statue to kind of go with it. I drew Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer, one of my favorite shows, got him to sign it. This was a Superman drawing I did. I think I was about 11 or 12 years old, so, I was terrible then, I'm still terrible now, so, keeps me, honest. This is done by famous Batman artist Carmine Infantino. I believe Carmine Infantino was one of the most influential Batman artists at that time. And the way I got this piece was when I was at the Kubert School, Alex and I, we had a teacher, his name was Irwin, little old man, taught our lettering class. And one day I was having a conversation with a bunch of my friends, and we were talking about Batman artists, and I had mentioned that Carmine Infantino was one of the most influential artists of that time. In the 50s, 60s era of Batman. And Irwin just slowly came walking down to the back where we were all sitting, and he said, oh, you like Carmine Infantino, huh? And I said, yeah, I think he's great. His artwork's fantastic. And he said, oh, okay, and he just turned around and walked away. About a week, I think the next week in class, he had this folded up, it was awful that he folded it up, but he had this folded up piece of paper in his pocket, and he hands it to me, and he said, Carmine says hi. And I open it up and it says, to Bobby, all my best, Carmine Infantino, with a Batman sketch. And I was floored. And he said, yeah, I have lunch with him like every week. And I told him what you said, and he was really happy that you said that about his work, so he drew that for you. So very important to have that piece. He's no longer with us anymore, but his work was so influential and so impactful to Batman. So that's an important one to me. This is from when I met Dan Jurgens in '01. I was showing him some of my work at the convention, and there was someone taking pictures, and they took pictures. They asked my name, and I gave them my name and where I was from. And the next day, I met up with Dan again, and he handed me this newspaper. He said, hey, look, we made the papers. So that was the news article where it talks about me showing him my artwork and stuff like that. So I still talk to Dan to this day. Great guy, great artist. So. All right, here we are at the War Room. This is the Valaverse HQ conference room. This is a very cool room. This is where I do a lot of work. This is where I review samples, watch UFC with Tony. I'll probably doing some more live streams and podcasts from this room because it's a fun one, not as fun as my office, but very cool. I had this in mind that I wanted the War Room to have a now and then feel to it because Action Force is, Valaverse is all about, but Action Force has this rich history from when Palitoy had it, so I wanted it to have a now and then where it's my version of Action Force and the old version of Action Force. So on one side of the office we have all Palitoy Action Force, and on that side is all Valaverse Action Force. So this is the Palitoy Action Force side. So a lot of, I don't have every item, but I'm working on it, but you know, Action Force is so iconic and has this rich history. So some really cool vehicles. The APC is one of my all-time favorite vehicles for G.I. Joe, and then the one they did for Action Force was so much better. And you know, Tony agrees, a lot of other people agree. Great version. This was gifted to me from a gentleman at Joe Fest last year, which I was very grateful for, to to have the Action Force version of the Mobat. This was gifted to me by my good friend Tony Roberts of Analog Toys. This is a original hand-painted prototype from one of the designers at Palitoy that Tony got from that designer, and then Tony gifted to me. So when I got this from Tony, he didn't tell me, it was a big surprise. I was amazed by it. So this is an important piece in my collection, you know, for something that came from this era where those amazing designers, Bob Reekin and the team there, just created Action Force and what it is, and gave the inspiration to, you know, this modern day Valaverse Action Force. This is the Action Force Special Corps poster. So in the UK, under, you know, the Hasbro banner, when Action Force started making the transition to the more red, white, and blue G.I. Joe, they offered the Steel Brigade figure. However, they didn't call it Steel Brigade, they called it Special Corps. So you see Action Force Special Corps here. And it was a different offering. The file card was different. It came with a record, it came with an ID card, but it came with this giant poster. And Tim, who I bought the original figure, his file card, everything off of, he had the original poster with his name on it, and the code name was Steel Wasp, which is a very cool name. So sort of like a meshing of Steel Brigade and Swarm. But that's the poster that came with it. It's a really cool poster, and I thought it makes a great focal piece to the office here. Now getting out to some carded figures from the line. The collection's going to grow. I got some more on the way, but this is a handful of the ones I have so far. I do have the very rare carded Kraken, who was a mail-away figure, but then was offered carded, but very low quantities. So cool stuff here. That packaging is so iconic. That red, white, and blue, but then with that you know, harsh yellow Action Force, there's just really something about it that it's great. Embodies just 80s toys. Now we've got some original artwork. These are Robert Atkins did a bunch of covers for the Action Force Mission Files series, and all the covers that he did for me, I purchased the cover from him because I like having original artwork, and this was his cover for issue 4. Down here we have his cover for issue 3, which is all about the Steel Brigade, and Eclipse is in that issue as well, but that Steel Brigade cover that he did, man, that thing was awesome when I saw it. So that's a great piece, and he does fantastic work. So now we're on to the Valaverse side of the War Room. This is the Valaverse iteration of Action Force. This is, I wanted to display paint masters, test shots, production figures, just to see the whole kind of production span and history of how this line came together, and see it all in one spot. Because, you know, when you're working on this stuff, you're working on it, moving so fast, it's not that often you get to see it as a whole. So here we have some really cool production samples of the Condor figure. We have the Paint Master there, which you can see is 4% larger than the test shot, which is next to him, because in production, the Paint Master resins are always 4% larger than they shrink down in production. Right there we have some mold color tests on Condor. These are samples of the heads from 3D resin to, you know, casted resin, to the first test shot, to testing for the inkjet on the face. This is the first test of the pinless joints. All the Action Force figures have pinless joints. That was the first ever sample that they used as a test. Sort of like a way to just test it to make sure there was proof of concept there. So stuff like that is important for me to showcase and to remember how this line was built, and, you know, all the work that was put into it. Got some test shots, some of the basic troopers down there. You know, when I get samples in, you get random colors, whatever plastic they have, that sort of thing. So you see Sarge's jacket and multiple colors. These are some of the chips for the mold colors on the figures. You know, Carrick's helmet in different colors, which is fun because then when you're playing with the samples and you're putting like an OD green helmet on Carrick, it's fun to kind of do that stuff. There's an OD green bone collector helmet. That was cool to put on him. So, you know, fun stuff you don't plan on, but, you know, all cool. And then up here on these glass cases this is all of Series 1. So we have all of the core figures. These are all production samples going down to the basic figures and then all the gear packs and weapons packs and then that ultra rare prototype armament set that you all keep asking me for. But that is all of Series 1, which is cool to see it and how deep we went for Series 1. You know, the limited edition Sergeant Slammer there. So, cool line. Can't wait for it to get in your hands. Very soon, it will be there. Before we head down, we got the Action Force Championship belt up there. This is, I got this. This is from Whiskey Barrel. So you can see the charred whiskey barrel on the inside. Bourbon is my favorite thing to drink. But I saw this and I had it made. You know, I had that made back in 2019 knowing that one day I would have an office to put it in. So it's cool to, you know, see this here coming from my basement where I was working to now have an office where I can display it. Up here, a fan and follower of the line did this Steel Brigade helmet for me, which is very cool. Hopefully one day this movie will get done and maybe I'll try on a real Steel Brigade helmet, so fingers crossed for that. And now down here is going to be Series 2. So because we're in the early stages of Series 2, which is in production now, we have some paint masters and early samples of Series 2 figures. So Rollout, Sarge, Tim Kennedy, Trigger, Garrison Cavalry, Swarm, and then everyone's favorite, Desert Rat, my man Tony. Basic Trooper, weapons packs. This is the Tim Kennedy figure that the factory had made for me. So it's basically a production figure that was used when I went down to Texas and filmed those shots with Tim that you saw on the channel. So that's a cool figure to add to the history. But eventually it's going to look like the Series 1 shelf where I'm going to have all, you know, production figures and boxes, and it's going to be cool to then see that next level. And then under here is going to be Series 3, but for now it's a bunch of samples down here, more, you know, prototype armament sets, some of the comics, you know, the pins, the stickers. Like, I wanted this to be almost like the archives in a way. Sam Sears, who is a huge follower in the Legions group, good friend, he made this Steel Brigade pillow for me and had it sent to Joe Fest, so stuff like that's really fun to have. I have all the original artwork down there of all the issues that Alex worked on and Nitho Diaz worked on, Ron Rudat stuff. So everything that was not drawn digitally for the comics, I have the original artwork for. Alright, down here we have all the original artwork that was ever done for the comics and promos and that sort of thing. If it wasn't drawn digitally, I have the original art. So I have Alex's original art, I have Nitho's original art for issue 5, I have all the artwork for the Tim Kennedy book. Promo piece that Ron did for me. Down here we have some packaging samples that I got. So you can see how they send me samples just to kind of look over. This is the Steel Brigade file card that's going to come with all the Steel Brigade figures. There's going to be a video about this where I talk about how this works, the digital option for it. And then here are samples of the patches when they sent me to kind of look them over. So cool stuff that, you know, is very important to, like I said, the history of how this line was done and everything that went into it. You know, you never want to forget the journey you went on. So that's basically what this archives area of the War Room is. So, alright, let's move on. Some more cool aspects in this room. We have this awesome piece of artwork that was done by a follower and big fan, Florencio. You can see his artwork on the Legions page on Facebook. He did this awesome Wasp Raider piece. He also did a Swarm piece, but Andrew Marks from the Legions group, he had this poster made up and sent to me, and when I got it, I said I know exactly where that's going to go, and that's a very cool spot, because when you come into the War Room, it's like, bam, that awesome piece of artwork is right there in your face when you walk in. We have Robert's first cover he ever did for Mission Files, #1. Awesome Swarm cover. That's probably my favorite cover that he did. even though I love his Steel Brigade one, I think that's something about that swarm cover was really, really cool. So, you know, again, I love having his artwork. Down here, some more trinkets, Action Force trinkets. Got, you know, me and Sarge. Got some Valaverse coasters. We got the poker chips that I had done for Joe Fest. You know, my in-laws got me this nice Valaverse decanter with some Action Force glasses. So, what better way to drink bourbon? Me and Tim, these are shells that he shot out of his rifle and his pistol from that time that I went down to Texas to shoot that stuff. So there's that figure that I talked about earlier. And then this knife is done by you know, a fan and follower. He is the designer of this. It's called the Kuma Protector. But like I said, he's the designer of these awesome, awesome knives. And he and I were talking about getting one of his knives in the line. And this knife right here is such a cool knife. And this is the actual knife that the Pandora figure will have. So he sent me one of these so I could see how big it is in your hand. There's shots that I had to take of my wife holding this knife for the Pandora comic. So very cool knife. Go check out his work. Look up the Kuma Protector. But he's very excited to have that in the line. Cool piece. So, and now for the show piece or centerpiece of the war room is the custom conference table that I had made. This was done by Rhode Island River Designs. His name is Kyle, so go check out his work on Instagram, Facebook. Rhode Island River Designs. He's a local guy that I found that did these sort of living edge tables, and I knew I had always wanted this table, and this is the exact vision I had for it. All the brass that you see set into the resin center of this table are all shot from my rifles and pistols. So all the different calibers that I have, I gave him, and I said, this is what I want done, and he absolutely nailed it. So it's cool to kind of look through and see, you know, some shrapnel from ones that I fired, but all the different calibers in there. You got, you know, some 22, some 9, some 45, some 45 long Colt. We got a big boy 4570 in there, you know, some of my short shells. But great table. It's like I said, this was something I had in mind from, you know, the second I kind of had this office, you know, got this office started. But he nailed it. He did amazing work, and I love coming in here and, you know, sitting down at this table. It really gives the vibe to this war room. All right, we're on our way out now to get into the main area of the headquarters here. But, you know, before we do, we've got some cool stuff out here in the hallway. These are all rash guards from Danielle Kelly, who I sponsor. She is an amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. And like I said, these are all the rash guards that she's worn in her fights over the last year and a half. And you can see this was the first one, so the Valaverse logo was kind of small, and then you saw as it got bigger, and I became a more premier sort of sponsor. But these are all the fight posters from her matches. She's very talented, really good. I suggest you go follow her. She's got nasty leg locks. You know, she does a cartwheel Kimura that's pretty impressive. So yeah, go follow her. Cool stuff. I think she's got a fight coming up, but yeah, check her out. She's nasty. And then, speaking of nasty fighters, my all-time favorite knockout in the UFC, when Holly Holm basically kicked the head off Ronda Rousey. Great time. And then this is one of my favorite movies, Clash of the Titans. This is an original one-sheet from 1979, basically right before the movie came out in 1980. But yeah, original one-shot. I believe I sent a matching one to Michael French. But yeah, cool to, you know, he kind of gave me the idea that he has these original movie posters, and I said, I want an original movie poster. What better original movie poster to have than Clash of the Titans? So, all right, now we're getting into some more fun stuff in the office. This is basically my comics and trading cards area. Up here we have my shelf of Plasm. For those of you who don't know, there was a trading card in '93 called Plasm, and it was basically a trading card that you purchased, and it created a comic book. And it was so innovative at the time. This was at the height of trading cards, and this was my original one that I had as a kid. All these cards I collected as a kid, went and met Jim Shooter, the creator of Plasm, at a local comic book store, and he signed this, and it's been with me ever since. But I have, you know, uncut sheets, I have tins, I have, you know, sealed boxes. I like, if it's Plasm, I love it. And the great part about it is no one really cared about the line, so it's easy to get the stuff. For now. Yeah, right? Now I'm going to say it now. Now it's going to explode and everyone's going to buy Plasm. It's the kind of same thing with trading cards. Here are all my trading cards, you know, that a lot of you had growing up. You know, trading card. I love trading cards. I love going to the store and buying packs of cards. So we have Marvel Universe Series 1. We have the 89 Batman trading cards. I do believe on an episode of the Infinity Equation, I ate a 30-year-old piece of gum from one of the packs of Batman cards. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's not fun. We got some comics, trade paperbacks here. Some of the, you know, some of my favorites. A rare thing down here. One of the few comic books I ever worked on. Small press company did this horror kind of detective book, but yeah, terrible work in there by me, so I wouldn't recommend looking at that. So as we get into here, this is an important part of the office. This is the fan section of the office. You know, I love hearing from fans. I love talking to fans. The comments that I get, that sort of thing. This is all stuff that fans have sent me. Laser Pants himself sent me a nice photo, so that's a big one to have in there. You know, Carter, that I used to work with at Hasbro, he's actually Murtaugh and I'm Riggs. That's what we always called each other. But he sent me this Murtaugh and Riggs pin and a cool Demolition Man Taco Bell pin. So love you, Roger. Yeah, fun one to come in here and just read some of the cool stuff that people send. But I love fan stuff, so if you send me something, I'll put it up on the board. Now we're getting into some cool toys that I collect. This is, an area of the office where I have tons of toys from other companies, stuff I collect, stuff I worked on that, I basically just moved from my house and moved here. So this is not my Playmobil castle from when I was a kid, but I had this exact castle and I tracked it down because I played with that castle all the time. I'm a big fan of, medieval stuff, as you can see from the armory. But love that Playmobil castle. I'm really big on the new Masters of the Universe retro line. Sal has gotten me a good amount of these. But I think it's a great line. I love what they're doing. This is all the figures that they put out so far. Up there we have the 12-inch Marvel Legends that I worked on. Line I actually love. I would love to display those, but you guys know how it goes as a collector. Real estate is prime commodity. Down here, all the Ultimate Warrior figures that Mattel did, and some Jakks and Hasbro ones. But I love Ultimate Warrior. He's my second favorite wrestler after Stone Cold. But I love his figures, because he's got so many different costumes and stuff.
Oh, Bobby, is that classified down there?
Oh yeah, there's some classifieds down there. This is actually the eBay section. So down here is some stuff that I have doubles of. But yeah, some doubles of.
So you have more than one.
I do have more than one. Yes, you would think. Oh yeah. No, I have classified figures.
I thought you hated classified.
You would think, right? Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus. But no, I actually am digging a lot what they're doing. The second half of the line, they course correct in the right way, and a lot of that stuff is fantastic. So, especially that new color change Zartan, one of my favorites.
We'll get to that.
Down here is my eBay stuff I have to put on eBay. I just haven't gotten around to it. But here's my Sentinel, weak in the knees Sentinel that I got from my buddy Sal. I just picked up this Marv. This is a cool vehicle by the guys at Wayward Goat. Very cool vehicle for 4-inch figures. I love the design and construction that they did for it, because I think, one of these days maybe there should be an Action Force vehicle. I don't know. So we'll see.
But Bobby!
A bunch of Marvel stuff. This is a lot of stuff I worked on. I did all the, the prop replicas and Comic-Con sets and Legends and Riders and Spider-Man waves. So it's, just dragged all this stuff with me along the way, and just like I said, more stuff that I've either worked on or collected. A lot of Star Wars Micro Machines and Dick Tracy stuff, but yeah, all stuff that I like and dig, and one day I'll be able to display it. So now this section here, this is basically the warehouse section of the Valaverse Headquarters. In just a few short weeks, this whole entire area, floor to ceiling, will be filled with case packs of Action Force items. So every bit of it's going to be needed, and I think we're going to overflow into that section out there, maybe into the hallway a little bit, but we're going to get your stuff packed up as quickly as possible. Got the shipment of boxes here. You know, thousands of boxes that I loaded off a truck yesterday and, you know, stacked up here. So all those will get a nice Action Force stamp on it, loaded up with your items and sent out to you very soon. So it's going to be cool to see this whole area filled with boxes. I'm very excited for that. So, but one of the things that might have to go when we get those boxes is the ping pong table. You know, I talked about companies I worked for. They didn't really have like that fun atmosphere, even though they're toy companies. But one thing that Jazzwares did have, they had a ping pong table there. I remember thinking that was so cool that they had a ping pong table in the middle of the office. But the bad part is they had like 4 guys that were really, really good at ping pong. So I never got to play because every day at like 3 o'clock they would play. And they would play intense games. And I would kind of go get a cup of tea and I would just watch them. And I'm like, should I play one of them? Nah, I don't want to embarrass myself. But I knew when I got this office, I said, I would love to have a ping pong table here because I want to have that fun atmosphere. Like when we're working, you know, if we get finished or we're on a break, say, hey, let's play some ping pong. So ping pong table's here. You know, hopefully it gets a lot more use out of it, but it's probably going to have to get folded up, put in the corner for now. Once all the product arrives, because we're going to need every bit of space. I might have to tell my dogs, I bring my dogs here sometimes, their dog beds are going to have to go. Because we're going to need it. Real estate is a hot commodity here in the headquarters, so we'll see. So, but now, the other guy that's here 24 hours a day, this is basically the security of Valaverse. No, I'm just kidding. I do have a state-of-the-art security system. Police are also right next door, so if you ever want to come in here, you're not going to get very far. But this is the guy that's here all the time. This is Van Zan. This is the mascot of the office. Let's see how grumpy he is today. Everybody, want to come out and say hi? Come here. Oh, look at him. Say hi. This is my bearded dragon. I got him when he was really, really tiny. Sat in the palm of my hand. Now he's a big fat guy. So, yeah. All right. You got your 15 minutes of fame there, pal. That's him. It's my buddy. We hang out. He doesn't talk back to me, which is why I like him. So, and then, you know, kitchen area, you gotta have your snacks while you're working. But then over here is where the team and I are going to be loading up all of the Action Force product to ship out. So it's all gonna come from over there, get up here, pack boxes, and out the door. So it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool seeing that all happen, like the same as a workshop. Over here I got my photography section. I got a bunch of dioramas. This is where I shoot all the pictures of the samples and stuff. So I'm still trying to get better at photography, but I tend to try to hold my own, not very well, but you know, well enough. So when you get them in hand, they'll look a lot better than the pictures I take. All right, moving along. This is where this is the model shop area of the office. This is where I work on all the paint masters and prototypes. So here's where I piece together all the parts and, you know, pin the resin parts together and that sort of thing. And then my paint area over here where I do all the painting. So this is the down and dirty model shop area of Valaverse. Hasbro had a really great model shop, so it was important to have that, you know, just a model shop that, you know, kind of embodied that a little bit, make it feel raw and, you know, like that the old school toy design days of you know, building stuff in-house. When I was at Jazzwares, they did a lot outside of the office. They didn't have a model shop there, which I found very, very odd. But here we have a model shop, and this is where I do all the work. Got some Yik Sang books. I don't think I've ever talked about what Yik Sang books are. These are books that come from China, and they're basically plastic sheets that have all different plastic textures that can get photo etched onto the figures. So basically it has a serial number like YS4285, and then they would find that mold etch and then photo etch it onto the actual steel mold. And that's how you get, like if you notice when you get your Action Force figures, there's a leather texture on the boots, there's a canvas texture on the pants. Those are all Yik Sang coated photo etch textures. So little behind the scenes stuff that no one ever really talks about or knows about, but I feel like is essential. When I was at Hasbro, I relied a lot on textures because textures really bring a lot to the figure, and if you have a figure that doesn't have a lot of texture to it, it looks kind of flat. So textures are really important. You know, if you're getting into toy design or a toy designer, I would recommend getting some Sang books to make sure that your product just has that you know, that top-notch feel to it. Up here's some cool stuff. This was a version of Acid Storm. Now this is the Acid Storm that I worked on when I was at Hasbro for the Masterpiece line. You can see my Master Sergeant B Vicious Vala on the side of the cockpit there. And then a great customizer, he did these at Joe Fest one year, and I said, oh wow, I can't believe you did that. I worked on the original one. And so I ordered one from him and, you know, put the same lettering on the side, and then another guy did the, you know, the Acid Bat, which was, you know, part of this, that came, you know, with the Acid Storm Sky Striker. So very cool. This is an original Paint Master prototype of Acid Storm from, I think, the early 2000s Transformers line. I'm not a big Transformers fan, so I don't know for sure. Me and Tim, man himself. This is a Black Panther model from when I was working on the Black Panther line. Very cool model that we did. That was the inspiration for the transforming jet that came out. It wasn't nearly this big, but that was the inspiration for it. So, cool little item. Lockjaw that I did for the Collector's Comic-Con pack. Cool seeing the stages of it as resin, and then a test shot, and then the final sample. Aragorn, obviously. Huge Lord of the Rings fan, if you didn't get it already. And then this is another thing I did during my time at FIT, was we had to do that soft toy, but then we also had to do a hard toy. We had to create basically a hard toy, like a vehicle. And I couldn't wait. I knew exactly what I was going to do. And I had designed this vehicle earlier in the year called the Vulture, where basically you stick your fingers in here and you know, you pull the trigger, and then it extends the legs out and grabs onto, you know, figures or other vehicles just like a Vulture does. And I said, you know, I bet I can make this thing work. And very ambitious, and I didn't end up getting to the actual mechanism. Like, all the wiring is in there, but it's not hooked up to make it extend. But proof of concept is there. Very cool design. I mean, you know, Eagle Eye Joe fans can figure out what the, you know, the front cockpit is. So a lot of it is used stuff. Like, these are ATST legs. These are those gripper claws that you get in Toys R Us. But this stuff, the body of it and the wings were all vac formed by me, and then, you know, painted by me. So cool item. Maybe one day I'll put it in the Action Force line. And then, so that's it for the model shop. And the model shop is kind of the last, you know, stage on this journey, because now we're back at the very beginning here. So, you know, we have more fun stuff, dartboard and men's room. As you can see, you know, this is how you can tell it's the men's room. I don't think I showed the poster, but there's an equally funny poster for the women's room on the other side. So if you know the movie, you'll get why this is the men's room. So yeah, so now we're basically on our way out. Oh, greatest movie never made. So thanks for checking this out. Thanks for coming for this ride through the tour. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully, you know, you learned some cool stuff. Hopefully you weren't bored. Hopefully you think, hey, that's a pretty cool place. Maybe, you know, if you want to send an application for a cool job, maybe I'll hire you if you're in the Rhode Island area. But I want to thank my cameraman, Sal, from 2 Cents Toys. Go check out his channel. And yeah, you know, you could do all the cheesy stuff like this video, subscribe, and, you know, turn on notifications, all that stuff they say in YouTube videos. But yeah, hopefully you dug it, and thanks for stopping by, San Diego.